What is happening, everyone? Welcome to Mailbag Monday number 15. We got a great episode, lots of great questions. Keep sending them in. If you have a question that you would like to have featured on Mailbag Monday, shoot me an email, k8mrd@icloud.com. In the subject, make sure you put Mailbag Monday. That way, I will see your email above the other ones that don't have that in the subject, and we'll have a higher likelihood of actually reading it. Guys, I want to dive right in. The first question we have is about HT battery maintenance. This viewer is asking, HT batteries. What's a good procedure on keeping batteries healthy? I try to just run the HT batteries down and then recharge them periodically. I do this every couple of months for HTs I don't use daily. And then he asks, what do I do? So what I do and what you should do are two completely different things. So let's answer what you should do. So typical HTs have lithium polymer batteries in them. And a lithium polymer battery, if we're talking about one cell, we really want to drop that voltage down to about 3.8 to 3.85 volts, so about half of its capacity for storage. Now, most HTs have a couple packs inside of them in series upping the voltage. So, for example, I think they'll say like 7.4 volts or something. Well, they're going to charge up to about 8.2, 8.4, somewhere in that ballpark. So if you're seeing, half of what's half of 3.8 is, 7.6, somewhere in that ballpark. If you put a meter on your connections, on your leads for charging the battery, or just look and see, don't have 3 full bars and store them. So definitely discharge them. If you have them totally charged all the time, that can degrade the batteries. Don't do what I do. I just leave them on that shelf over there, and they just sit. A couple of them I actually have on the chargers all the time because they're some of my DMR radios, and I'm just kind of always have them on, which is not the greatest thing to do either. Typically, like I said, discharge them to about half, store them, and you don't have to worry about charging and recharging. Typically, they don't have a memory, so you're not gonna have to worry about that. But yeah, just discharge them a bit is really the best thing to do. And I actually am discharging mine, so I can prolong the life of them. Good question. Always love battery questions. Thanks for writing in. Next is a question that can open up a whole can of worms here, talking about NFEDs versus NFED half-waves versus 9-to-1s. This viewer asks, my question, you do lots of POD activations, so what do you feel are the disadvantages and or advantages of using an NFED half-wave compared to using a non-resonant antenna for portable operations? I don't want to start an antenna opinion war. Well, you already did that. I promise you there will be lots of keyboard commandos commenting. If you want to have a good laugh, go read this later. But I'm interested in your thoughts and experiences. So, great question, and we'll go over to this camera to talk about it. Either antenna is going to have compromises in some way or another. Both of them have a transformer in them that's going to bring a high impedance down to something that either your tuner can manage or that your radio is going to be happy with. So a 49-to-1 is going to bring your impedance down to 50 ohms at the feed point, and your radio and your antenna system and everything is happy. Where the 9-to-1, you're going to bring the impedance down to probably about 2,500 ohms or something in that ballpark, to where an external or a higher matching antenna tuner will be able to match it. Both of those have transformers, and you're going to experience some amount of loss. I haven't measured it, but I actually want to now that you're asking this question. I think that'd be a cool experiment. You're going to have some loss in the transformer regardless. If you use an NFED, feel it after you've made a few QSOs. It's going to be warm, so that is power lost and being dissipated as heat. Advantages of the NFED half-wave, well, you have a resonant antenna at the feed point, so you're not going to have any losses in the coax. It's resonant on 4 bands or more or less, depending on how you make it. Mine are cut for 40, so I have 40, 20, 15, and 10. If you make an 80-meter NFED, you're pretty much going to have all the bands without really much need for a tuner, maybe other than on, I think, 30 meters you might need an internal tuner to kind of sweeten it up a little bit. But I'm actually in this situation now because as the bands are opening up, I'm kind of thinking I want to move away from an end-fed half-wave and back to a 9-to-1. And 9-to-1's actually the first kind of portable end-fed wire that I started with from Pactena, and it works great. It's fantastic. The reason is because as the bands are starting to open up, I'm constantly wanting to get on 17 meters, but my end-fed half-wave 49-to-1 doesn't do that. So I'm kind of thinking I kind of want all the bands, like 40 through 10 really is where my primary concern is. So I'm really thinking about switching back to a 9-to-1, even though I understand that I'm going to have more losses than an end-fed half-wave because I'm not going to have the tuner at the antenna. That would be a more efficient way to run it. I'm going to have the tuner pretty much at the radio and then coax going to the antenna. So you're going to have losses in the transformer. You're going to have losses in the coax because your coax wants to see 50 ohms, but it's still seeing 2,500 ohms. The tuning is happening closer to the radio. If you can put a tuner at the antenna feed point, that is going to be better. Less loss from the coax. That's really the difference. The trade-off is that now you get every band your antenna tuner can possibly tune. I have an MFJ, what the heck is this? An MFJ 939 that I use, and I did a video with the Pactena 9-to-1 and this antenna. It'll tune 160 through 10 meters with a 41-foot piece of wire that's on the Pactena. I do have a few counterpoise wires on it, but that's it. So that's a tough question. But like I said, I really am thinking of going back to the 9-to-1 because I want the multi-bandedness. As far as getting on the air and performance, you're going to make contacts with either one of them. I promise you that. I've not had a situation where I was like, I'm using the end-fed, and then I was like, darn, I wish I had the 9-to-1 because I'll make more contacts with that, other than the multi-bandedness. So either one's gonna work fantastic for you. It's just a matter of, do you want to carry a tuner with the 9-to-1? Your internal tuner will most likely not work unless you have a Zygu or an Elecraft or something that has a capability of tuning like a 10-to-1. Most radios only tune like a 3-to-1. If you have a really wicked, awesome tuner and you're okay with hooking that up, or you have an internal tuner one that will, knock yourself out with the 9-to-1. It's, like I said, it's just a matter of, do you want to bring that extra hardware is really the biggest thing for me. It's not the losses, but you will have a little bit more losses with the 9-to-1. So I can go on and on. I'm sure the keyboard commandos are already typing comments as we speak, so there probably will be some good feedback on this. And if you do have some good positive feedback, do leave comments because I think it's great to share this stuff. So fantastic question. Thanks for writing in. Next, we have a great question, another one about antennas. This one is about Magloops. He's saying, can you use a Magloop in a hotel room for ham radio? And what would be the max watts output to be safe from RF radiation? Now, I'm no RF radiation expert, but there's a lot of great info on the ARRL's website. They actually have an RF exposure calculator. Now, just as a blanket statement, yes, you can use a Magloop in a hotel. But let's show you why. So if we hop over to arrl.org, up here where it says website search, just type RF exposure and hit enter. And the second one down here is an RF exposure calculator. Now, I did a little bit of research. Most of the Magloops are for lower power. So, for example, the Chameleon F loop is rated for 25 watts. So let's put 25 watts in here. And let's say we're going to do a little bit higher duty cycle. But, I mean, pick which one you're going to do because your results may vary. But I'm going to go conversational SSB with a 50% duty cycle. Let's say our transmit is going to be for 2 minutes and our receive is going to be for 2 minutes. Antenna gain, I couldn't find a lot of information, but quite a few pings online suggested that a Magloop's antenna gain is 1.5 dBi. Others said it was up to 5 dBi if you added counterpoise wires to it, but we're just going to leave it at 1.5 dBi. And for operating frequency, let's just say 14 megahertz. And some of this will change, and then we can hit calculate. So we can see maximum allowed power density, minimum safe distance in feet, so 3/4 of a foot away at 25 watts on 14 megahertz you can pretty much be standing right next to it and be totally within safe parameters. So don't take my word for it. Go to this website and type in whatever kind of operating conditions you're going to have. Now, another thing I want to show you, if we go over to YouTube and we go to Oscar Mike Zero Echo Tango, a guy by the name of Paul. I'm a big fan of his channel. He does a lot of stuff on loops. And this video right here, I'll leave a link in the description, the ultralight Magloop. What is it called? 5 QRP contacts from my couch with the MCHF TRX Plus Magloop antenna. So this is a loop that Paul made. This video was fascinating to watch. He did this was a couple years ago, I think. Yeah, 2020 he put this out. And he's literally just sitting in his living room with this tiny QRP radio, 5 watts, maybe 10 watts, and he's making all kinds of contacts. It's fascinating. So watch this video, and this is pretty much going to be exactly the scenario you're in. So thanks so much for writing in that. I'm going to be doing some experimenting with loop antennas soon, and they look pretty promising. So go check that out, and go check out that online RF exposure calculator. The next question is a real easy one. Most of the time I run wire type antennas. I use the 1010 ZenFed half wave. Good for you. That's a great antenna. Love my 1010s. When I run it as a vertical in the 10 to 20 bands configuration, I use counterpoises. My antenna wire is SodaBeam's 24 gauge wire. Will it be an issue if my counterpoise wires are different gauge, larger than the radiating wire? Well, that's a simple one. No, it won't. It won't matter at all. And lastly, we have another question that I could go on for hours and hours and hours, but I'll try and keep it brief. This viewer is asking, he's looking to tap into my experience and wisdom. I didn't know I had those things. Thank you for suggesting that. On the most practical antenna cable to use when activating PODI. He goes on to say, I've been using LMR 400 antenna cable. Good Lord. For portable. Wow. Because of its low loss ratio. Yeah, it is low loss. I have both 25 and 50 foot lengths and use the appropriate length depending on which antenna I'm operating and how high in a tree I can get the wire. However, it's pretty heavy cable and not the easiest to roll up after use. You got that right. There must be a better option. Messi and Poloni Hyperflex 5, Ultraflex 7, or Ultraflex 10 seem like potential options. However, not sure which. Is RG8X a better option? So I'll just tell you right now, RG8X is going to be the worst option. But let's compare and contrast, and I will show you why. So I just so happen to have a number of cables sitting on my desk right now. So this right here is Hyperflex 10. This is approximately the same size and width of LMR 400. So I don't think this would be the best solution for you if you're looking for something more manageable out in the field. Now, Hyperflex 10 is going to be more flexible than LMR 400, but it's still kind of the same size and weight, so probably not. Now, at home, I use Ultraflex 7. This is a lot more easily manageable than LMR 400. It is ever so slightly thicker than RG8X. Here is RG8X right here. So I don't know if you'll be able to see, but let's see. Can we get a good angle? See how you can kind of see the white behind the RG8X? It's about 1 millimeter thicker. It's Ultraflex 7, meaning it's 7 millimeters in diameter. I think the RG8X is about 6 millimeters. In terms of specifications, this is going to be closer to RG213. It does outperform RG213, and basically same weight and size approximately as RG8X. I use Hyperflex 5 out in the field. Now, this is a 5 millimeter cable, which is ever so slightly thinner than RG8X, and it has better performances. Again, RG8X is going to be the worst performer in terms of loss. Never mind size or flexibility or anything. Out of all of these cables, RG8X is the worst in terms of loss. Now, I can tell you that, but I'm also going to show you. Fortunately, Messi and Poloni and Times Microwave, who makes the LMR cable, both have calculators that you can go to online and check and see kind of what's going to be best for you. So let's hop over to the internet machine, and I'll show you all about it. Okay, so here is Messi and Poloni's online calculator, and here is Times Microwave's online calculator. Now, since we're comparing this to LMR 400, let's just go ahead and get rid of my logo so we can actually see this. Bye-bye. Let's go ahead and just get a base comparison for LMR 400. Now, I'm going to pick LMR 400, specifically not LMR 400U. LMR 400 is the solid core because you did not specify. So let's just say 14 megahertz as a base whatever comparison. And let's say our cable run is 50 feet. LMR 400, we're going to have a loss of 0.3 dB. Okay, and we can push 4.8 kilowatts through it, and that's kind of all that really matters in this test. Okay, so 0.3 dB with LMR 400 at 14 megahertz and 50 feet. Conversely, if we take, here's Messi and Poloni's online calculator. I'll leave links to both of these in the description. So let's say we look at Ultraflex 10 just for the heck of it. Now I'm going to change this to feet by clicking feet here. Okay, so we're going to go feet. 50 feet, let's say 14 megahertz, and they have temperature on here, which doesn't really matter too much. Let's say it's 80 degrees outside. We can see that Ultraflex 10, 50 feet of it is only 0.2 dB of attenuation, so it's actually slightly better than LMR 400 in this case. And it's actually not its comparable cable. Actually, Airborne 10 would be comparable to LMR 400. So now as the lengths get higher, the LMR will tend to beat this out because we're not actually comparing apples to apples. Again, the Airborne 10 would be comparable to LMR 400 and would beat it in every way possible there. And let me just say that in every possible way you do these scenarios, Messi and Poloni will always beat LMR no matter what, so long as you're comparing apples to apples. So if I compared 100 feet of Airborne 10 to LMR 400, the Messi and Poloni would beat it every time. I have a video coming out very soon that will show all of this, but just know that Messi and Poloni is the absolute best coaxial cable in the world, okay? So now getting back to, let's go to something a little more manageable, because I personally wouldn't want to be carrying that big coax for portable. So let's go to the Ultraflex 7, which is what I use at home. Now we can see we have 0.3 dBs of attenuation in a form factor approximately the size of our G8X, okay? So now we're 0.3 dB, 0.3 dB. So now you just decrease the size and weight of your coax and you have the same specs as the LMR 400, okay? So we're right in line there with 50 feet, okay? Now, sure, the Ultraflex 7 won't be able to handle as much power. We can only do 2,700 watts versus 4,800 watts. I don't think that's going to be a problem out in the field, so that's negligible. We're really more concerned with just the dBs of attenuation we're going to see in these coaxial cables. Now, if we want to go even further down the line, we can go to what I use out in the field, which is the HyperFlex 5. It's even lighter and skinnier. So now we can see we have 0.4 dBs of attenuation versus 0.3 dB. So 0.1 dB of attenuation is going to be negligible. Now, again, as we start increasing these lengths, so let's go just to show you, if we go to 100 feet, now we have 0.9 dB, where if we go to 100 feet of LMR 400, we have 0.5 dB. So again, as these lengths get longer, you're going to see a bit more difference here. And again, we're not comparing similar cables either. We're comparing a really skinny cable to LMR 400, which unfortunately has become kind of the benchmark of cables, which I'm looking to change that because Messi and Poloni is just, it's so much better. But we'll learn about that in a bit. But for 50-foot lengths, it really doesn't matter. So it's really, at this point, it's kind of how much do you want to spend. I do have 5% off coupons both from Gigaparts and directly from Messi and Poloni. If you buy directly from Messi and Poloni, use code K8MRD at checkout. That'll save you 5%. Or I have a discount code through Gigaparts. If you buy stuff from them, you'll get 5% off. Just follow the links. All the information will be in the description. But yeah, I mean, personally, I would just say do the HyperFlex 5 if you're really looking to save some weight. The UltraFlex 7, it is a better cable. But you're not really going to see a difference. So again, comparing HyperFlex 5 at 50 feet, we're 0.4 dBs of attenuation versus UltraFlex 7, we're 0.3 dBs of attenuation. So not a huge difference there. And again, you can play around with this and see, you know, if you go higher up, if we go to 21 megahertz, now we're 0.4 dB with UltraFlex 7 and HyperFlex 5. We're 0.5 dB. So frequency is going to change it a little bit. Play around with these and see what's best for you. But all of these tools are online to help us figure out what the heck is going to be the best cable for us. So fantastic question. I love talking coax. It's fascinating to me. So thank you so much for writing in, and I hope that helps answer your question. And now Satan wants to make an appearance and show you his butt, probably. So we'll sign off on this camera. Guys, thanks again so much for watching. The questions just keep pouring in, and I'm loving it. Get no work done here. If you do have a question, please do write me an email at k8mrd@icloud.com, and in the subject, do put Mailbag Monday, and that way I will see your questions and make yourself at home, and hopefully you'll be featured on an episode of K8MRD Radio Stuff. Guys, thanks so much again for watching, and we'll see you again on another episode of K8MRD Radio Stuff 73, guys.